In an era of railroading where the high iron is dominated by GE locomotives, one can imagine just how much attention an operational steam locomotive might get. In March of 2024, CP 2816, otherwise known as the Empress, was put to the test on the main line between Edmonton and Calgary, Alberta. Over the last several months, CPKC has been conducting a series of test runs on this vintage locomotive in preparation for the final Spike Anniversary Steam Tour, which is expected to commence on April 24th of 2024. This once-in-a-lifetime steam tour will begin in Calgary at Ogden Yard and will terminate in Mexico City. We were lucky enough to document one of the historic test runs catching CP 2816's return trip to Calgary from Edmonton. In Part 1, we will document the test run over the 97 miles of mainline track that make up CPKC's Leduc Subdivision, bridging the gap between Edmonton and Red Deer. Although mild this year, the cold prairie winters in Alberta only added to the show, as thick plumes of steam could be seen for kilometers in advance as the train approached. We encourage you to sit back, relax, and enjoy the coverage of the only surviving non-streamlined H1 Hudson as it soars across the high iron on this cold winter morning. CP 2816 has just finished meeting a CP Mix Manifest freight train, forcing them into the siding at Cavanna. The crew slowly rolls to the south end of the siding, easing 2816 to a stop as the conductor dismounts to line the turnout onto the main line. We see here the conductor line the switch into the siding, as indicated by the green to red rotation of the target on the switch stand. Empress has come to stop in Wetaskiwin, where it will undergo a routine service stop. The preserved 464 Hudson-type steam locomotive was built in December of 1930, laboring the rails and passenger service for nearly 30 years before it was retired in May of 1960. In January of 1964, the locomotive was donated to Steamtown, USA in Bellow Falls, Vermont, where it sat on static display for several years. In 1984, the locomotive was moved to Scranton, Pennsylvania, and eventually purchased by the Canadian Pacific Railway in September of 1998. The restoration of this iconic locomotive followed soon after and was eventually returned to service in August 2001, used exclusively for excursion service until the steam program was discontinued in 2012. Nearly a decade after the program was discontinued, the steam program was reignited, prompting a series of tests and eventual overhaul of the locomotive in preparation for the merging of the Canadian Pacific and Kansas City Southern Railways. Given this locomotive's extensive history and old age, routine service stops are required to ensure smooth and trouble-free operations of the steam locomotive. Today, the 2816 stopped in Wetaskiwin, where a plethora of CP employees converged on the locomotive, making quick work of its servicing. As we documented the locomotive, we noticed it drew significant attention within the community, drawing dozens of locals at any given time who were both genuinely curious and completely shocked to see the 2816 in operation again. It was a refreshing sight to see so many young families paying close attention to this rolling piece of history. The steam crew on board this train has just about finished servicing the 2816, which means it's time for us to continue this adventure south towards Red Deer, with our first stop being Hobbema. CP-2816 arrived in Red Deer Yard where the Leduc Subdivision ends and the Red Deer Subdivision begins. Here, a crew change and service stop will occur in preparation for the final leg of its test run across CPKC's Red Deer Subdivision. We hope you enjoyed Part 1 of CP-2816's test run between Edmonton and Red Deer. Stay tuned for Part 2 of this special test run where we will cover CP-2816 as it thunders across the Red Deer Subdivision.